Yes, friends. Now we're moving on to the first part of the string variable. Let's continue with this part. Part 2. What are we going to do in this part? Let's add it like this. Let's call it runner string methods. Let's continue from here. Friends, what are the methods related to strings? In other words, we'll be talking about which methods will be useful for us. Friends, I won't drag it out too long. There are a lot of methods, but I'll quickly go over the methods that are important for us and that we need to use carefully. I'll explain as many of them as possible here. Friends, now let's write an expression. Yes, first, let's print it to the screen. Our expression. After that, let's look at the numbers we can use within the expression. First of all, length, friends. A string expression gives the length. So how many characters? Contains returns this as an integer. So when you run it, you get the length of this string expression. Look, you can find it here. So how does he find this? Let's go to length. Look inside length and let's go there too. Here, there's something called value.length. What is this value? What was value again? Friends, it was our byte array. Inside this array, there's also something called length, meaning its length. That's actually the information you're getting right here. So, the expression you entered is seen as a byte array. I had said char array, if you remember. That's how you see it. It actually gives you its length. So, that's what it is. System out expression. Now, the other things that will be useful for us here. I'll go through these really quickly. Lowercase or uppercase, friends, and the other one, toUpperCase. There's a usage here. Now, when I run this, you'll see the expression like this. It'll be better for me if I take this part like this. Yes. Let's do it this way. Now look. Actually, I've written all of this in lowercase, but this also converts everything to uppercase. What do you mean, teacher? So, the logic is this. It turns the entire expression to lowercase, meaning all the uppercase letters become lowercase. For example, here today I wrote the J in uppercase. I said string with Java. When you run it, you can see it here. For example, this is my normal expression. Okay, so what does this do, guys? It converts this to uppercase or lowercase. Here, it converts lowercase letters to uppercase. That's what it's used for. There's also a concept called root in this. Let's write our notes here. Upper or lowercase. What this does is uppercase or lowercase. Convert to lettercase. Mac. Yes. Write it down. Let it be appropriate again. Okay, there's also a concept called root in this. Right here, what does this do? This concept here is as follows. Guys, it converts according to the language. You have to specify it here. The basic logic here is this. For example, when we use it for Turkish, guys, the needles. The uppercase equivalent is capital I, guys. But when you translate this to English, the uppercase of I is capital I. Alright guys, here you need to write something inside this. For example, here you can write it as local root. You can change this. You can set this language to something else. Alright, you need to change this. What are you going to do? You're going to set it to English, ANY language. Here, for example, what do you need to do according to English? I wrote this part wrong here, but when you say local root like this, it translates according to the language of the PC. You can change this. So, like this, local.well, there isn't a Turkish equivalent, actually, so you need to fix it manually. Local dot English. Alright, you'll need to express them like this. Let me set this back to normal. Why is this conversion important? It's important because of this, guys. For example, you do this lowercase or uppercase operation on your local machine. There's no problem. Why? Because your machine supports the Turkish language. Turkish. Or rather, let me put it this way. By machine, I actually mean the Java virtual machine. So when we say machine here, we're not talking about your computer. We're talking about the Java virtual machine. If the virtual machine you're using is in Chinese, or I don't even know if there's a Chinese version, but if it's in Russian or some other different language, then, actually, this changes according to that JVM. Now, let's say you're using this on your own computer in Turkish. You're using it, and there's no problem. But if you send the results somewhere and the result is in English or some other language, these lowercase and uppercase issues can become a headache. That's why it's important to manage these things for you. Either your result will be in the same language you're using, so you don't run into problems when doing conversions, or you'll specify it here in a strict way. So you have to specify it as local.tr or local.english. You need to pay attention to things like this. They're simple things, but sometimes they can trip people up if you're not careful. Now, let's look at some other things. Let's continue from here. Substring. Guys, we saw substring in the previous lesson. Here's the main thing about it. For example, I write 5 here. Let's say in one of them, it's 613. Now, when I run this, the output it gives here is like this. When you say 6 here, what does it do? It starts from 6, guys. So, which one is 6? Let's say it's this one. For example, it starts from 6, 6, 7, 8, 9. It goes all the way to the end. Look, when you leave it like this means the following. It means continue from the beginning all the way to the end. So, read until the end of the expression. Alright. What is this? Teacher, what does this do? This, friends, indicates the start and the end. So, it actually reads the part from the start to the end. So, the substring. From within the text. Let's say it's used for cutting. There are 2 different ways to use it like this. Now, let's continue. What else is there after dot expression that we can use? We mentioned caret. Friends, what was caret? It gives the character at the index we specify. For example, when I say 12, it will give the character at position 12. I think it's the letter V here. When I run it, it's actually the letter A. Okay, I read the letter A for us. It reads the character at the given index. Let's continue. System out, expression dot. What else is there here? There's replace. Replace is something you can use very often. Any variable you want, or rather, it's used to replace a character with a new one. Alright, let's do it. Teacher, for example, what should we change? For instance, there are letters here, like lowercase a. Also, consider the speed. For example, it's in Java. Let's say, for example, the letter A. I wanted to change the letter A. It says underscore. I wanted to change it. Let this be the character. What should we put instead? Instead of A, let's do it like this. For example, let's do ch. So, let's add a dash to the beginning and end of the A's. Let's see what it will look like when we run it. Look, in the answer you see here, it added this to the beginning and end of all the A's. Why would we use something like this? A character. I mean, why would something like this be used? Of course, here what I changed is just a single character, but you can also change an expression. So, for example, let's say system@. Expression.replace. For example, what should we change here? Let's change Java. For example, guys. It says Java here, right? Let's say our new thing isn't Java, .NET. Let it be. Okay, what will it do when I do it like this? Look, today.NET. We will be working with the string variable. What happened? So I changed a text as well. I can also change an entire expression. When it's like this, you can do the following. You have text in hands. There are areas in the text that need to be changed. For example, you can mark them with special things. With numbers or boxes, you can say, turn these boxes into this, turn those into that. For example, you have a contract. There are parties in the contract, right? Like the lessor, the lessee, the person renting. There are such parties. There's the price, for example, how long it will be rented for. You have a contract like this. You want to change the clauses in it. You can easily change them with this. Those are already clear. Party, the renting party, the rented party, the party giving the rent, price, duration. What do you do? With this, you can easily manipulate this text. What else do we have here that we can use? There's index of friends. Index of tells you the position of any character or expression you're looking for. For example, with. Let's write it like this. It precisely returns the exact index number of a specifically searched expression or character within the given text. It returns it. When you run it, it returns the position where IL is found. It's 18, friends. For example, the place where IL is found is 18. It's used to return this. Of course, when you think about these things we're using here, you might be wondering, where am I going to use these, teacher? But as time goes on and we do examples with these, you'll understand. Where will you need it? Now, here we have the trim method, friends. Trim is one of the most commonly used things. It removes the spaces at the beginning and end of an expression or a string. It deletes them. Let me do it like this, so you can understand. Let me write an example expression. When I put the two side by side now, you'll understand better what I mean. Let me do it a bit more like this. Take a look. Now, this is the expression itself at the top. See, there are spaces at the beginning and end of the expression. Do you see it? Okay, what about the second one? Look, no spaces beginning or end. Trim handles that. But teacher, there are spaces in the middle. It doesn't remove middle spaces. It doesn't touch middle spaces. Then, expression dot. What else is there that we will use here? There's concat for combining. It's used to add one expression to another. So, it will add to the end of this. Into our text. Let's continue. Expression dot. It contains friends. For example, what should we search? Let's say Java. This means the following. Friends. It returns whether another expression exists within an expression or not. So, it returns true or false. Look, you'll see when I run it. Look, this was newly added into this expression here. I can do it like this, so it goes down like this, but this is how it was newly added. It returned true here as well. Why? Because the word Java appears in this expression. Friends. Expression. Let's say dot. What else do we have here that we can use? There's equals, friends. Equals is also for this. Is it equal to this? Is it equal? It returns whether two expressions are equal or not. So here, it will return false. Because is the variable expression equal to the text I wrote here? Of course, it isn't. That's why it will return false. All right, let's continue. What else do we have we can use? Is blank and is empty are. Is blank. System out. Expression dot is empty. It would be much more accurate if we did it like this. Whether the expression is empty or not. They return whether it is or not. Of course, empty and blank are different things. Empty means it's completely, empty. Blank means a space. We can understand it like this. Look, now. Is this your expression? Nothing inside. This one too, and this one. I left it empty. Are both of these empty? Logically, both of them are empty. Guys, all right. Now, I'm going to do it like this. And I'll do this one like this. Is empty. Let's call is blank. Is blank. Let's run it. See what the results are. Now, is it equal to this here? This part is contents. Does it contain true? Is it equal? Our thing starts from here. Now look, it says is blank. Is blank. What does it say? Is this empty? It's asking, what did this return? It returned true. So, what did this return? This one returned false. Why is it is empty? Is asking, teacher, empty. So this means, guys. Empty expects there to be not even a single character inside. Now, is this empty? Empty. Nothing inside. But is this empty? It's checking. This one says it's not empty. Why isn't it empty? Because there's a space character inside. So it's not completely empty. Well, what about these? Since there's absolutely nothing inside these, both will naturally return true. So, the difference between blank and empty here is that blank checks for any character other than a space. Empty, on the other hand, requires that there be absolutely nothing inside. All right, there shouldn't be anything at all. What else do we have here that we can use? There's split. It would be better to see this when we get to arrays. Start with VAR is something that will be useful for us. Let's see. And also start with VAR, guys. This means the following, friends. For example, let me write this here. And look at the result. Here, it's true. The expression, it starts with this. There's a space here. Sorry, I forgot the space. Expression ... trim. Control Z. Let me say trim. So I'll remove the space at the beginning and run it. Now let me do it like this so you can understand the logic better. I'll run one with trim and one without trim. One is true. This one will come out false. This is false. This will come out true. Let's run it. Look, this one came out false, and this one came out true. So the logic here is this, friends. An expression. Does it start with the entered value? It returns that. So true. Or it returns this as false. Alright, this is basically the logic of the whole thing. Now, everything I've shown here, friends, and even more than these, are available within string methods. But these are the things we'll use most often. We have example solutions related to these and some deeper details about strings. We'll talk about those as well. We'll cover that in the third session.